The biggest lie your mind tells you right now is that you've been completely erased from her life. You look at her silence and assume you've become a ghost, a minor footnote in a story she's already finished reading. But the reality is often much heavier. You likely occupy more space in her mind than you can emotionally afford to acknowledge. While you're walking around acting like you were just a phase or a temporary distraction, your impact is likely woven into her nervous system. Without even trying, you have become the benchmark, the standard against which every future interaction she has will be measured. The real issue isn't a lack of importance. It's the way you're reacting to the fear of being forgotten. When you panic and try to prove your worth through constant reaching out or emotional displays, you're actually sabotaging your own value. You start chasing crumbs, a liked photo, a short text, a mutual friend's update, and you treat those tiny fragments like they're a full meal. This doesn't project love or commitment. It projects a total collapse of self-respect. You are essentially telling her that your dignity is for sale, and that is the least attractive signal a man can send. You have to understand that the silence you're receiving isn't a synonym for indifference. We live in a world that tells us if someone is smiling in a social media post or staying quiet, they must be over it. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of how people, and specifically women, process loss. Women are often socialized to be experts at emotional regulation. They can look perfectly composed and happy on the outside while their inner world is in total chaos, rearranging the furniture of their lives. Just because she isn't showing you her grief doesn't mean it isn't there. She may be moving forward, but she is doing so while carrying the imprint you left behind, subconsciously comparing every new man's presence to the one you once provided. This isn't about feeding your ego or pretending you're some untouchable prize in a cringe-worthy dating game. This is about pure psychology and the way the human brain processes security. In a world that is chaotic, loud, and unpredictable, if you showed up as a stable, consistent signal, you did something most men never do. You left an imprint. By being grounded and living with integrity, you weren't just a boyfriend or a partner. You became a psychological reference point. Her mind has essentially created a template based on the way you carried yourself. Even if she tries to move on, her brain will instinctively use the memory of your stability as the yardstick to measure the character of every man she meets next. However, there is a brutal distinction you must understand. Mattering to someone is not the same thing as being chosen by them. This is where most men spiral into confusion. You can be the most significant person she has ever known, a core memory that she thinks about every single day, and she can still choose to walk away. She can deeply value what you had and still feel the need to test the world, to see what else is out there, or to simply be alone. The fact that you left an imprint doesn't give you a claim on her future. Attraction isn't a math equation where being a good man automatically equals her staying. Your ego is currently desperate for a courtroom verdict. It wants everything to be black and white, guilty or innocent, love or hate, she wants me, or she never cared. But human emotions are messy and contradictory. It is entirely possible for her to miss you intensely and still refuse to talk to you. She can have immense respect for the man you are and still keep you blocked to protect her own peace of mind. She can love the memory of you and still be completely unready for the reality of you. If this realization hurts, let it. That pain is necessary because it's the only thing that will kill the bargaining phase of your grief. You have to stop begging reality to be different than it is. The moment you accept that she can value you and still leave you is the moment you stop performing for her and start living for yourself. You have to stop looking for a logical explanation for her absence and start accepting that human beings are allowed to be complicated. Once you stop fighting the truth, you regain the power to move forward with your spine intact. To understand why you truly matter, you have to look past the surface level of romance. Men often think they win a woman over with grand speeches or clever words, but women don't attach to dialogue. They attach to the physiological experience of being near you. It isn't about the frantic butterflies or the high-octane drama of a honeymoon phase. It's about the way her nervous system responded to your presence over months and years. What sticks is the feeling that your presence represented order in a chaotic world. When you are a man who can hold tension with control and provide a sense of structure, her body learns that it can finally exhale. That feeling of safety is much deeper than any compliment or expensive date. The reality is that a woman can find shallow attention anywhere. She can get 100 good morning texts and 1,000 compliments in her comment section from men who are willing to treat validation like a full-time job. But what she cannot easily find is a man whose inner world is governed. Most men outsource their emotional stability to the woman they are with. If she's happy, they're okay. If she's upset, they fall apart. When you are a man who doesn't need her to be okay just so you can feel steady, you become a rare commodity. You become a pillar of strength rather than another emotional project she has to manage. This is why the way you exit a relationship defines your true value. The man who is truly rare is the one who leaves clean. He doesn't resort to smearing her name. He doesn't chase her down the street, and he doesn't punish her with desperate paragraphs of text or emotional tantrums. Instead, he operates with a calm finality. He embodies the mindset of, I want you, but I don't need you, and I won't abandon myself to keep you. In that moment, you stop being just another guy she used to date, and you become undeniable. You move from a position of weakness to a position of absolute self-respect. Ultimately, her internal accounting isn't based on a list of your best traits. She isn't simply asking herself, do I miss him? She is asking, was my life more peaceful with him or without him? She is weighing whether you were presence or just noise. If being with you meant she had to constantly manage your ego, soothe your insecurities, or walk on eggshells, she won't miss the relationship. She will be relieved it's over. But if your presence was a calm harbor where she felt protected and seen, your absence creates a vacuum that no amount of shallow attention can ever fill. If you want to be the man who truly matters, the first thing you have to do is kill the urge to look for evidence of your worth. You have to stop treating her social media likes or old text messages like they are sacred scriptures that hold the secret to your identity. When you spend your nights watching her life from the bushes, digitally or otherwise, you are essentially telling yourself that your dignity is optional. To reclaim your power, you must take every ounce of that obsessive energy and redirect it toward the only territory you actually govern, yourself. You have to stop being a spectator in her life and start being the architect of your own. This starts with total control over your physical and financial state. You need to push your body until the emotional static in your brain finally goes quiet. When you sweat, lift, and train, you aren't just building muscle. You are reminding your mind that you are a man of action, not just a man of wandering thoughts. At the same time, you must tighten your grip on your finances. Building financial competence isn't just about the numbers in your bank account. It's a physical form of self-trust. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can provide for yourself and handle whatever storm comes your way without needing anyone else to stabilize you. Reclamation also requires you to curate your environment and your inner circle. You need to get around a brotherhood of men who won't allow you to spiral into self-pity. You need friends who will tell you to put the phone down and mean it. Men who value your progress more than your feelings. Your environment should reflect the man you are becoming, not the man who is sitting around waiting for a notification. If your space is a mess and your circle is weak, your mind will stay weak. By simplifying your life and surrounding yourself with strength, you create a foundation that doesn't collapse just because one person walked out the door. The final and most difficult step is controlling your mouth. You have to stop trying to explain your heart to someone who has already made the conscious decision to misunderstand you. Sending long paragraphs or trying to win an emotional argument is just a form of self-abandonment. It shows her that you are still negotiating for her approval. Your value is not a variable that changes based on whether or not she returns to you. Your value is a constant that is proven by the standards you refuse to lower. When you truly understand your worth, you stop auditioning for her attention. Because a man of high value doesn't need to ask for a seat at a table where he isn't being served. It is time for a brutal reality check. You aren't just suffering from a broken heart, you're suffering from a broken ego. There is a massive difference between missing a person and missing the validation that person gave you. Right now, you are mourning the version of yourself that felt chosen and important because she was in your life. You're calling your obsession a search for closure, but closure is a myth we tell ourselves to stay connected. You aren't looking for a final conversation to move on. You're looking for a hit of relief from the withdrawal symptoms of rejection. You want her to say something that gives you permission to stop feeling the pain, but that permission is never coming from her. True closure is a gift you give yourself by looking at the wreckage and simply accepting that it ended. You need to understand that a woman's mind doesn't work like a simple light switch that stays off once it's flipped. It operates more like the seasons. She might be completely sure of her decision today, and then weeks later, a specific song or a memory might hit her like a body shot, bringing a wave of genuine longing. However, here is the part most men ruin. She can feel that wave of missing you and still choose never to reach out. Why? Because she knows that if she gives you an inch, you'll try to take a mile. If she senses that you are waiting by the phone to turn one moment of her vulnerability into a binding contract or an excuse to restart the relationship, she will suppress her feelings and stay silent to protect her peace. The biggest mistake you can make is becoming a heavy presence. If you act like her missing you is an obligation or a debt she owes you, you become a burden rather than a man she can admire. She needs to know that she could theoretically reach out without being suffocated by your expectations or trapped by your desperation. But more importantly, you need to reach a point where her waves of emotion don't dictate your internal weather. When you stop being the guy who makes everything heavy, you stop being the person she has to avoid. You don't get her back by showing her you're lost. You become unforgettable by showing her you can lose something and still keep your spine. To truly become undeniable, you have to transition from being a man who is reactive to a man who is controlled. This isn't about being cold or pretending you don't have feelings. It's about having the discipline to ensure those feelings don't hijack your behavior. A man who is undeniable doesn't need to give a long, dramatic speech about his boundaries because his actions speak for him. He has a purpose and a mission that existed long before she arrived and will continue to drive him long after she's gone. This type of stability is rare because it proves you are the captain of your own ship. You understand that the ultimate test of your character isn't how you act when things are going well, but how you handle disappointment. When things fall apart, do you become petty, bitter, and resentful? Or do you use that friction to become a better version of yourself? You have to stop identifying as the victim of a breakup. You are not the unanswered text. You are not the guy who got left. And you certainly aren't the memory she's trying to post over. Your identity is not defined by her rejection. Instead, you must choose to be the man who learned from the fire, the man who tightened his standards and stopped negotiating with his own loneliness just to feel a temporary spark of connection. When you stop acting like a beggar for attention and start acting like a man with a spine, your entire aura shifts. You move from being a request to being a reality. The ultimate goal is to build a life that is an ecosystem of its own, a life so full of momentum, growth, and self-respect that it doesn't need a single person's validation to stay upright. When your world is thriving because of the work you've put in, you won't need to sit around wondering if you still matter to her. You will know you matter because you matter to yourself, to your mission, and to the future you are creating. Paradoxically, this is exactly when a woman feels your presence the most. There is nothing more magnetic or undeniable than a man whose sense of self is entirely independent of a woman's attention. By the time you reach this level of masculine integrity, you aren't just a man she remembers. You are a man she can never truly replace.